Good evening. Hope everybody had a decent day. Wow. Man, the news today was pretty astonishing, was it not? My goodness. I've got stuff for you from every direction you can imagine today. Some of it is pretty serious. Some of it, I don't know the truth, but I'll get to that. We got a lot of stuff we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the Rittenhouse trial because, like many others, I was pretty glued to that today. I spent a lot of time watching the trial today. Watching the closing arguments and that nightmare disaster, and we're going to get to that. And just I've got links that I've got opened up here in my browser window. I've got stuff. However, I also have the story that the show is titled after. That's not absolutely not clickbait. That's actually the headline. And wow. I mean, this is such bizarro world. It's unreal. And again, I've got tons of stuff to cover tonight. I've got stuff with Russia to cover. I've got stuff with actually a fair amount of stuff with Russia. I've got a little bit to cover with COVID. This deal with this activist and his threats. Wow, it's just insane. Where the hell do we start? As by the way, as far as we're concerned, no updates or anything. We're kind of a bit in a glide mode right now. We just don't have a lot going on as far as just things. I don't have much to make videos on. I do have a few things I want to make some content on, but I didn't make any videos today, like report type of videos, because I was pretty glued the best I could to what was going on, and so I just didn't get a chance to get stuff out, and it was kind of it was kind of hard to keep up, to be honest, and a lot of the information that I was getting, I was looking into and then double checking, and you're going to see why. Some interesting stuff, interesting games going on as well, and we're going to get to all of that. So let me start off with, I'm sharing out a headline, so pardon me while I just blabber. No, I'm done now. But we're going to start out with the story that the show was titled after. I figured that would be probably most appropriate. And then we'll just kind of go from there. So let me go ahead and bring this article up so you guys can see it on your screen, know what's up. This is mind-blowing to me. Activist says he's got 1,000 soldiers locked and loaded to defend CRT. And for those that may not know, that's critical race theory. So, textbook definition of a terroristic threat. Textbook definition. And it says, as the article reads, an African-American activist defending critical race theory at a Texas school board meeting said he has 1,000 soldiers who are locked and loaded on standby, but insists it's a sports team and not a sports term, and not a threat, right? This is a sports term, because you always hear that in sports, right? Video of a meeting of the Fort Worth Independent School District Board shows Malik Austin arguing that he fights for critical race theory equity for the sake of his children, and that he's got over 1,000 soldiers ready to go. How dare you come out here and talk about things that my daddy and my grandparents went through? The lynching, the oppression, Jim Crow, and my kids are still being affected by this. Or afflicted, by this. Austin said at the November 9th meeting, adding, "We are not our ancestors." The incident was captured on video by Carlos Tercios, a conservative activist who was also at the board meeting. The footage also shows Austin saying his soldiers will be locked and loaded as he is being ushered away by law enforcement. Reached by Fox News for comment on Sunday, the activist said he wasn't threatening anyone. That's a term I used for when I coached football. It means prepare and get ready, he said. I would agree, but I've never really heard it. I can't say I've never heard it used in sports, because I have. And I don't think it's wide, though. There again, I'm not one to watch sports, so if I've heard it being used in sports, it might be more common than I think. Anyway, Holly Clemens, the woman Austin was arguing with at the meeting, told Fox News his words absolutely made feel threatened, and that her understanding the phrase depicts an act of preparing a rifle to fire. I'm scared and I'm afraid he's going to do something, she said. Another person who was there, Carol Grani, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, claimed that Austin had showed up in tactical gear at an August meeting and described himself as a revolutionary. Tercio also claimed Austin was part of an armed group. Conservative activist and researcher Christopher Rufo, who has turned into one of the harshest critics of the theory, commented on the reports about the incident on Monday by posting a photo of a man he identified as Austin posing for a photo with a group of black-clad gun-toting people, which he referred to as his former militia. Neither did DOJ or FBI have commented on the incident yet. Fort Worth police told Fox News they have received no complaints over the meeting. So, let me get this right. Somehow this cat can go in, make statements like this, and it's all good. Another cat can share a meme joking something to the effect of about Boogaloo or whatever, and he's picked up. He's picked up for sharing a meme. This guy can make a direct threat, and the police hadn't even received any complaints. I keep hearing about this privilege. What kind of privilege is this? I'm not going to say it. What kind of privilege is this? Because people like this ain't going to get away with that. That's a fact. That's a fact. I sit there and I listen to closing arguments today on a trial to where they're trying to make a 17-year-old boy out to be a terrorist, out to be a cold-blooded killer, a cold-blooded murderer, which couldn't be any further from the truth. But everybody wants, and I'm talking about everybody, I'm not talking about everybody, I'm talking about, mainly the left, wants to throw this kid under the jail for every little reason that they could pick out, starting with the fact that he had an AR-15. None of it was okay with these folks, with what Kyle did that night. Not okay with a single bit. They're not okay with him helping out medical assistance. They're not okay with him putting out fires. They're certainly not okay with him invoking his right to self-defense. But this is okay. This gets the green light. Anybody see a contrast there? And can anybody tell me what privilege that would be? Because I know damn well that I couldn't get away with something like that. They'd hang me out to dry. This has got to be talked about openly, honestly, because this is where it gets dangerous. This is where it gets dangerous. You know, we're not even allowed to really communicate because we get the hell censored out of us. We're not even really supposed to be communicating our thoughts and our opinions. But they can openly make statements like this. And that's okay. And by the way, when I'm saying they and all of that, I'm referring to political ideologies. I'm not referring to races. I'm not referring to any of that. I'm talking about political ideologies. I just want to make that very clear. We have to deal with this. Because this sets a very, very, very dangerous precedent. This is how you get more people like Kyle Rittenhouse. And when I say that, I'm saying that in respect to Kyle. This is how you get people that wouldn't normally carry around a weapon to start carrying around their weapon. And starting to be more vigilant. And starting to be more, just actively ready to deal with any situation that comes their way. And when somebody is in that situation mentally, when they're in that mindset, they're going to be quick to deal with trouble. It's not a good thing. Not that I'm saying, that is a good thing. The part of it that I'm saying is not a good thing is that anybody has to be put in that position to begin with. That's what's not the good thing. In reference to the situation with Kyle. I can armchair quarterback this one, no problem. I think he's a young man. I think his decision to go there that night in that capacity was foolish. I'm not insulting him. I am not putting him down. I am saying, more or less, on that part of it, he acted like a typical 17-year-old. On the decision to go. And to go in that capacity. And that's it. As far as how he handled himself, that, in my opinion, is some pretty top-notch stuff. I think he did a hell of a job handling himself. That's just my opinion. Backed up by evidence, but still my opinion. We keep hearing about this civil war. This is how you get there. This is exactly how you get there. Especially, and you really speed up the process when you do this, when you encourage one side and throw hurdles in front of the other. And that's what they're doing. And remember, a whole lot of this is all over the claim of the, disadvantages of certain groups of people in this country. And I'm not going to sit here and say that there's not disadvantages. There absolutely is. From start to finish, there's disadvantages, and those are things that we need to work on. But the things I'm referring to have nothing to do with CRT, and CRT will do nothing to help. All this CRT stuff is designed for is to cause a division and to cause a resegregation, if you will. That's it. Divide, distract, That's its whole intent. Now, again, I have to give my full thoughts when I speak about this stuff. I absolutely think they need to do a better job in history. Absolutely. But CRT's not it. That's not history. That's bullshit. I have no objection. But when I say the true history, I mean the true history, and I mean all of it. You know, like the fact that one of the major reasons for the Civil War to begin with was resources and currency. States wanted to be able to have the right to keep their sovereign currency, and that was a big part of it, plus their gold, because from my understanding, when all that was going down, the northern states wanted them to give up their sovereign currencies, and that included giving up their gold, so they could be included in this, I guess, their monetary system. That was a big part of it. That was a huge part of it. Slavery was actually a pretty small part of it. But it was also included in the whole states' rights argument. And that's the history. That's the truth. But see, CRT isn't teaching that. And clearly neither is our current history programs. They're not teaching it either. I thank the Father for my history teacher, my high school history teacher. Where do you think I first got that tidbit of information from? And to be real honest, him telling me that was probably the single biggest thing for me to open my eyes with this government. And that's no joke. Now you got to remember, I was in high school. How old are most folks when they quote unquote wake up? I was in high school. Thanks to a teacher. He told us he was going to tell us the truth, and that he did. He'd probably, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine what would happen to that guy if he tried teaching today. Oh my goodness. But anyway, let me go ahead and move on. I mean, what can you say on this? This is crazy. This is the very reason for having domestic terrorism laws. But I bet it's not followed up on this case for some particular reason. I don't know. Next up, interesting story here. So the National Guard in Oklahoma have been standing their ground on the vaccine mandates. And apparently the Pentagon is getting a little perturbed with them over that. And it's really interesting because I want to get them right. The 45th Infantry Brigade Commander of Oklahoma, his name is Brigadier General Thomas Mancino. And he told his soldiers last week that no negative administrative or legal action would be taken if they refused the jab. Okay? The Pentagon warned today that they would absolutely be punished, and that the quote was, "It is a lawful order for the National Guardsmen to receive the COVID vaccine. It is a lawful order," the Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby warned. "Refusing to do that, absent an approved exemption, puts them in the same potential as active duty members who refuse the vaccine." So we'll have to keep an eye on this and see what goes on with this. I'm telling you, I have no reason to believe that the government's going to back up, that they're going to back away. I don't have an inkling of reason to believe that the government will back down on this. In fact, quite the contrary. And I guess, let me move this one over here, and we'll get it out of the way, and then we'll do Russia. That's a good one, too. So, and I don't know what's going on, and you'll see why. You'll see why I'm saying that. There's a definitive reason I'm saying that. So, I thought I switched over. I'm sorry. This article is coming out of France. I was trying to remember. I almost misstated. A new COVID-19 strain found with altered spike protein, says reports. Really? And this is all it says. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read some important things to take away here. Just remember to keep your ears and eyes open. A new COVID strain with unprecedented changes in its spike protein has reportedly been discovered in the northwestern French region of Brittany, according to local media. The new strain was reportedly detected in people who contracted the virus back in mid-October and infected a total of 24 people in France, including 18 children attending the same school and 6 adults who had contact with them, French media reported. The new strain, however, was so unlike all previously known COVID-19 variants that it took scientists a long time to identify it. Are you listening? This delay was a mistake, a health official told media outlets after the discovery was first reported by Le Telegram newspaper on November 11. Analysis of the strain did not correspond to anything previously known. Again, hope you're paying attention. Adding that it resembled neither the profile of the widespread Delta variant nor those of other COVID-19 strains of concern. The variant, which has since been called B.1.640, is reportedly missing part of its spike protein. The protein is normally used by the virus to enter human cells and spread the infection through the body. It is unclear if this mutation makes the virus more or less contagious. Stop. Right here, a school had a total of 24 people infected, including 18 children. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say it's contagious. As far as how, I'm going to say at least as contagious as the other strains. At least. I think that just from the information we have, we can come to that conclusion, that it is at least. And I reckon I'm supposed to believe that this is natural. I'm sure I'm supposed to believe this is natural. Yeah. We'll wait until Biden tells us what to believe, but I'm pretty sure we're supposed to believe this is natural. Keep your eyes and ears open. Without a doubt. I wanted to point that one out to you. And I want to have a little talk with you before we get into about Russia. Because some of the information I don't have up here, and I could have gotten it, and I didn't, and oh well. Let me tell you the information that I don't have first. So, Pinball Preparedness did a video today, and I can't remember what he titled it. Let me look at my history real quick so I can tell you. Okay, it's titled Prepping, We Are Being Kept in the Dark. a video that he put out earlier today. I definitely suggest you watch it. And in that video, and this is the part that I don't have anything here for you, but in that video he talked about a line, a cable for communications that was cut. All right, and you'd be better off watching his video to know all the details of it. I believe he said something like a 2.5 mile piece of this cable was chopped. And it's an area that, Russia is known to frequently be around and all of that. I believe, is it Norway that it was? It's more or less blaming Russia for it. And I don't want to go too deep because I don't remember by memory enough of the details, and I don't have an article up to show you, but I wanted to make you aware of that. I have absolutely zero reason to doubt what Pinball Preparedness was talking about. I just hadn't, like he had reported in his video, this isn't something that the mainstream media, our mainstream media is completely ignoring it. So, and again, I don't have an article up for that, but I do have 2 articles up for this ordeal that involved the International Space Station and apparently a satellite that was destroyed by a weapon, and the International Space Station had to do some maneuvers. Plus, for their safety, the folks on the International Space Station had to go to their pods for a little while until they got past the debris. Some, I believe it was 1,500 pieces of debris. And I've got, like I said, I've got an article up here. And this is where it gets really interesting, to where I have to start asking, okay, what in the hell is going on here? Because this first article here, as you see headlined, Pentagon alarmed at Russian satellite explosion. And then the article says, and it's not very long, so we'll see. I'll read enough, whatever that may be. After the Pentagon noticed a debris-generating event in orbit, the State Department condemned what they said was a Russian test of an anti-satellite missile, calling it dangerous and irresponsible behavior. The Space Command is aware of a debris-generating event in outer space, the Pentagon said on Monday, saying the U.S. military was actively working to characterize the debris field. State Department spokesman Ned Price accused Moscow of using a direct ascent missile to destroy an orbiting satellite, creating over 1,500 pieces of trackable space debris. Then there's a quote, "This test will significantly increase the risk to astronauts and cosmonauts on the International Space Station, as well as other human spaceflight activities," Price told reporters at Foggy Bottom on Monday afternoon. The crew on board the ISS reportedly briefly withdrew into their modules due to some of the debris intersecting the station's orbit, but there were no reports of damage. And this is a quote, "Russia's dangerous and irresponsible behavior jeopardizes the long-term sustainability of outer space and clearly demonstrates that Russia's claims of opposing the weaponization of space are disingenuous and hypocritical. The United States will work with our allies and partners to respond to Russia's irresponsible act," Price said. Later in the day, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson told the Washington Post it was outrageous and unconscionable that Russia carried out the missile strike, adding that he believes the Russian Space Agency didn't know anything about this and they're probably just as appalled as we are. The Russian Defense Ministry and Roscosmos are yet to comment on the matter. Okay. Probably, if you heard about this, that's probably the story you heard, right? Yeah. Sounds good. Let's take a look over here. This is another story. Came out today. Okay. Came out today. In fact, this one came out before the one I just read you. It's titled ISS Crew Told to Hide Due to Threat of Space Debris. There's a reason I'm laughing. The International Space Station has been warned about space debris. Ground control in both Russia and the U.S. ordered the crew to briefly hide inside their spacecrafts. The crew members were allowed to resume work after the debris, reportedly a part of a satellite, flew past the ISS. On Wednesday, the ISS maneuvered to avoid a collision with a piece of a Chinese weather satellite, listen to this, that was destroyed by a weapon test in 2007. Oh. Did you think all of that just happened? Right there. Did you think all that just happened? Because the test was back in 2007. So that space debris has been floating around up there since 2007. I told you. There's something up with that. When they're making all of this seem like it's all, just late-breaking information, I'm telling you, the United States is getting geared up for war. Without a doubt. And I don't think Russia is doing anything different, to be honest. I don't know whether or not Russia wants it. I don't know. There are things that are being done that are very interesting. But from what I'm starting to see, if there is this real battle going on between nations, seems like Putin is one cunning dude. He, pretty good. But I thought this was highly interesting. Thought I should certainly point it out, because again, they're saying that the satellite was destroyed back in 2007. Interesting, huh? So, in other news involving Russia and war, got this article from RT as well. Russia unveils a new warplane with no pilot. They call it the Checkmate. And I look at this aircraft, and what I see is pretty much what the F-35 was supposed to be, but never made it there. Now, I don't know that this thing, if they have a variant that's got vertical takeoff and landing, I haven't seen anything. It doesn't, I know the model that they're showing in the video there absolutely is not VTOL or vertical takeoff and landing. It's not even STOL, which is short takeoff and landing. It's not either one of those. So, however, there's a reason why they're doing this. Human beings have limits. Okay, our bodies can only handle so much stress, only so much force, and you can, in these fighter jets, a human being could literally kill themselves before, in some of the jets, could literally kill themselves before they would be putting enough G-forces on the plane to actually destroy the plane. So, with that in mind, you realize that technology in aviation has reached such a point that we can build aircraft that human beings can't physically handle to fly because our bodies wouldn't survive the abuse. But if you take the human out of the cockpit and you put him in a shipping container out in the middle of the desert or something, well, then now their body's not subjected to all those forces and all that trauma of actual flight. And and this is a huge factor, you remove the fear. Because there's a big difference between setting in a shipping container in the middle of the desert, and I'm being hyperbolic, versus actually being in the plane with missiles flying at you. So, I'm not surprised by this. In fact, I think this is old news. I think Russia is just kind of, this is a technological tit for tat back and forth between nations right now with them showing their toys. I think that the true technology, the true advancements go very far past this. I think that they have fully autonomous. And no doubt about that. I can guarantee you that the United States has fully autonomous planes, ships, you name it, drones. I can promise you that. So, I would only suspect that other countries like Russia and China, for instance, have pretty much the same type of capabilities too. But anyway, Russia coming out with what I would call their answer to the F-35. And, I don't know a lot of the details. Of course, I'm sure they're not out at this point in time. I don't know, anything about the engine. I don't know anything about the plane. But I will definitely be watching out for information. Not because I want to spy on what Russia's. No. I'm a airplane junkie, and I kind of like to fly Russian planes. Russian planes are, man, them folks can build a plane. I'm telling you. But a lot of people can. The French even make a good plane. We make good planes. Everybody makes good planes, pretty much. But they're all fun to fly. They're like boobs, right? You see one, you gotta see them all. I'm kidding. When you fly like I do in the flight simulator, yeah, it's pretty much that way. You fly one, you want to fly them all, and there's a lot of fun in those fighter jets. And when they're designed like these particular jets are, like this what they're calling a Checkmate, which is their Su-75 is the technical name for it. Those get really interesting. The F-35 is fun to fly in the simulator. A lot of them are. So my favorite right now, there's not a whole lot of good quality aircraft out for the current simulator. But without a doubt, right now my favorite is the Hawk, the T-1 Hawk. And that's by BAE. Makes that, I do believe. So, awesome plane. But again, there's not a wide selection right now. So, F-35 is supposed to be coming this coming month. October is when the F-35 is supposed to be released. So, for Flight Sim. Sorry, I know you're not in the least bit interested about that. But anyway, definitely keep an eye on this stuff. Because every time stuff like this comes out, it is a certain escalation. And we might want to keep a real close eye on that right now. I would say anything involving the different nations and foreign relations, I would be keeping a close eye on right now. Remember, things can change in the blink of an eye. And you could have anything from a slow build-up of war to something that just breaks loose like crazy overnight. We have no idea what we're looking at. But I do know the stakes are high. The tensions are out of this world. That is, if what we are seeing is what is really going on. And, I question that. And, I don't see it easing. I don't see it de-escalating. Hang on, let me deal with something. Sorry, I'm losing. I can't focus. Anyway, I'll just get to the headlines. I can't remember where I was at for sure, but just keep your eye on international relations and stuff going on, because whether it's okay. Here's the thing: whether what we're seeing is a show or whether it's the real deal as we see it, either way, I think there's a very high likelihood that at some point they're going to trade punches. And guess who's in the crossfire of that? So just keep an eye out. Be prepared for it. Be ready for it. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get in the headlines. Get the headlines done. Get out of here. And I'm telling you, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. Let's see. All right. U.S. and Israel launched joint cybersecurity force. A Capitol storming was an attack on NATO values, Secretary General says. I told you about that one. Biggest COVID Delta outbreak hits university town in China. IBM claims its new quantum chips could set new standards. China wants to cut wealth gap with new stock exchange. RT journalist handcuffed and detained near Polish-Belarusian border. A new type of COVID-19 vaccine in the works. Probably one to pay attention to. And this stuff that's going on between Poland and Belarus and all that. If there's anything that I could see sparking off more on an imminent basis would probably be this. Belarus border crisis is a distraction, the U.S. claims. Trump sells D.C. hotel with shady history. Knife attacks continue to haunt Japanese metro. NATO boss comments on whether Ukraine will join the U.S.-led bloc. Macron quietly changes French flag, says reports. Anti-vaccination protesters must stop using haka dance synonymous with New Zealand sports, urges the tribe. Navalny's inner circle infiltrated by Russian intelligence agents, says a top Moscow journalist. And I'm sure it is. Probably no different than the U.S. Belarus's state airline cancels Middle Eastern migrant flights from UAE. Duarte makes decision on his future in politics. Latest scientific discovery may lead to cure for Alzheimer's. I've always heard it Alzheimer's, but it doesn't look like Alzheimer's. And my mom actually worked in the medical field too, and that's how I've always. But I'm kind of curious: is it Alzheimer's or Alzheimer's? Nah. Oh, what? You have to say it louder. I've got headphones on. Oh, I'll I couldn't hear, and so, EU to lay out plan to rival China. Oh, I missed this one, sorry. Fears over Christmas turkey shortage in the UK addressed. Liverpool bombing declared terrorist incident. China to burn record amount of coal amid green energy push. London and Paris trade barbs over channel crossings. EU border crisis fueled by Europeans demonizing migrants, says the UN. A deputy prime minister of Poland calls for Russia and Belarus to face sports bans over border crisis. And I should have probably said there's a lot of headlines today. I talked about that. A statue of India's iconic leader targeted in Australia. U.S. journalist whose arrest triggered diplomatic row is released. Bitcoin receives first major upgrade in years. Russia showcases top weapons at Dubai Air Show. GOP senator claims Biden is behind gas price hikes. Pretty sure. You know, there's a lot of times that I'm on record as saying, people need to quit with the nonsense back and, it's Democrats, because a lot of times it's a bunch of crap is what it is. However, this time, it's not crap. This time, the gas prices and all the other havoc in the energy industry as far as the United States is concerned, yeah, that's Biden. RT France journalist to face court after arrest near Belarusian border, says Polish police. A new COVID-19 strain found with already covered that, sorry. Game over for Fortnite in China. So it's been taken offline. Israeli military bugs phone calls en masse, says reports. Sure, we probably already knew that, or I did anyway. UK raises terror threat level to severe. Politicians in Georgia stage hunger strike in support of jailed ex-leader. Bitcoin's mysterious inventor set to be revealed in court. That's going to be interesting. And I wouldn't necessarily hold your breath. I have a feeling that all said and done, not going to be revealed. Former Trump advisor Steve Bannon is taken into custody. FBI raids on Project Veritas could have serious consequences. Pay your debt, Iran tells Britain. Beto O'Rourke wants to challenge Republicans' extremist policies with governor bid. Good luck there, buddy. U.S. reveals scale of ammunition shipments to Ukraine. Poland's censorship at Belarus border is beyond comprehension, says journalists. I'm sure. A British aristocrat died at the hands of Kenyan police, says a court. Let's see. Judge drops gun charge against Rittenhouse. Let's see. Manhunt launched for 3 prison escapees, including perpetrator of university terrorist attack. Man, I don't know if that's my headphones or my microphone, but I hear something starting to sound all kinds of crappy. I'm telling you, I got to replace the mic. I've got one in my wish list for Amazon, but I'm going to be real honest with you. I have no clue when I'm going to be able to do it because it's like a $100 microphone, and got stuff to get before a microphone. Unlike other YouTube channels that actually do have income coming in that refuse to buy, audio equipment, especially when they don't even do video. It's just that's mind-blowing to me. But anyway, I'm actively trying. We got the mixer, so I got part of it taken care of. But my mic's like a $30 microphone, the one I'm using, and we've been using it since 2014. So I guess, or 2015, one of the two, somewhere's rightish in there. So, and again, it's like a $30 mic. It's a clone. Let's see. U.S. Supreme Court rejects Volkswagen's appeal. Scores feared trapped in Canadian landslides. EU leader claims refugees on Belarus border coming from Russia. China overtakes U.S. in global wealth race. California gas prices hit another record. Republicans gain edge in 2022 election, says the media. Belarus's Lukashenko discusses border crisis with Germany's Merkel, says reports. Cooperation is the only right choice. China could challenge Biden to decline Winter Olympics visit. Which, that's going to be interesting. Putin tells Macron EU should talk to Belarus over the border. Poland to issue new coin marking defense of eastern border from refugees. Hang on, let me have a sip of coffee. Let's see. Police name suspect in Liverpool bombing and carry out controlled explosion. Let's see. Austria's greatest Olympian quits political role as lockdown for unvaccinated comes in. 5 kids aged 14 to 17 injured in shooting in Aurora, Colorado. And when I first saw the breaking news of this, I put my head down. I was like, no. But I don't know I haven't read for any updates or anything like that. But the last I did read and check for updates, it kind of almost sounded like the particular area that they were talking about was like it was a park and kind of known for problems and gang activity and stuff like that. But the park was not very far from the school, which obviously prompted for a lockdown, and you know the rest of the story. But so it's not a school shooting or anything like that. So just so folks know. Tensions mounting between Biden and Harris camps, says the media. Yeah, apparently they're, we all know their ratings are like the most piss poor since Truman, and probably going to be worse. And so apparently, and I don't want to hear about how Democrats are, they turn on each other, because you know what, that's called human behavior, and it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat, Republican, or who the hell you are. It's common human behavior that when people get stressed, they start to turn on one another, and it doesn't matter your political affiliation or anything else. It's just human behavior. So apparently, that's what's starting to go on right now between the Biden and Harris teams. So, and that, oddly enough, reminds me of something else that I wanted to point out. This whole, and I think I said something about it last night, and I think it needs said again. There's this new group, or whatever they're calling gyropers or something like that. They're supposed to be these really far-right nutbags. And I'm telling you, these far-right nutbags are at least inspired by federal agents. So please remember that before you go running for this frickin' honeypot. What their intent is to divide the anti-mandate, anti-mandate folks. That's what they're there to do. Now, they're going to show up and act like they're in support, that they're on the same team, but they absolutely are not. What they're trying to do is introduce contrasting views, not necessarily, we'll say, pro-mandate, anti-mandate. No, all anti-mandate, but they might throw in a contrary view on, well, how it is that we address this. And, they may have something extremely contrasting. They may even say they support violence, for instance, okay? And then now you're going to cause a rift with the others, because you're going to have This group of the others say, oh, well, yeah, we support that method of dealing with it too. And then you got the other side, oh, no, we're not going to handle it that way. And then they'll introduce more and more of these contrasting things, dividing up what was once a large group into a bunch of little bitty smaller groups that at that point become absolutely useless and absolutely no threat to the powers that be. That's what's going on. So when you see this gyroper crap or whatever it is that they're calling these nut bags, just understand what it is that they're actually doing. And yeah, I'll call them straight out directly because I'm done with this shit. I'm tired of it. I've watched movement after movement after movement get absolutely dismantled by these federal pieces of crap. And it's time we look them straight in the face and call it out. And that's the drone coming. No, I'm kidding. Pentagon alarmed at Russian satellite explosion. We covered that. George Clooney calls Baldwin shooting circumstances insane. Oh, gosh, I didn't even really talk about Rittenhouse. And that brings it up. So, I don't know. They call him the ADA. Can I call him Derpa Derpa? I'm talking about the Rittenhouse prosecutor that's... We'll call him Bender. Can we call him Bender? Let's call him Bender. But anyway, this cat takes an AR-15, the evidence weapon, and points it in the direction of what appears to be jurors. Obviously, you don't see the jurors, but it would appear that he had the weapon pointed in the direction of the jurors. And there's a bunch of memes going on right now out there on it. It's kind of hard to miss right now. And he's got his finger on the trigger. Now, mind you, he's gone off on these big tangents about how irresponsible that Kyle was and how he wasn't qualified to be doing any one of the roles that he said he was there to do, whether it be the firefighting, whether it be the administering medical assistance or defending, that he wasn't qualified to do any of those things, which he did actually very, very effectively that evening. That's the whole reason why he's there. And yet this cat is holding an AR-15 that he did not check. He did not open that bolt and check that weapon. He asked, but he did not. Ladies and gentlemen, never take somebody's word for whether or not a weapon is loaded. You check yourself. Listen to me. It is your responsibility to check that weapon. Period. End of discussion. It doesn't matter who the hell you are. It is your responsibility and your sole responsibility. Baldwin can't blame it on anybody but himself. It was his responsibility to check that weapon. And here we have a prosecutor pointing a weapon in the direction of jurors, clearly going for an emotional response. That was the whole point of it. Him to pull that rifle up and put his finger on the trigger and more or less intimidate those jurors. That was his intent, was to get those jurors to kind of scrunch down in their seats because there's a gun pointed in their direction. That was the intent. It was to invoke an emotional response. I don't think it worked. But, man, that sure says a lot, doesn't it? Let's see. Canadian city evacuated after flood-induced sewage failure. That doesn't sound like a bunch of fun. Yeah, I can play bass guitar with my microphone thing. Not good bass guitar, but bass guitar nonetheless. Let's see. Sorry, I know it's annoying. Let's see. Activist says he's got. Oh, already covered that. Sorry. This is actually a picture of what I'm talking about. I forgot. It's actually on there. Anyway, the headline is Rittenhouse defense accused prosecution of defaming teen in closing arguments. And that, by the way, is an image of what I was talking about with him holding that AR-15. Looks to be pointed in the direction towards the jury, I would say. It's again, they're not going to show you the jury, so. But his finger is clearly on that trigger, and it might even be depressing it. And he never checked that weapon. He never checked that weapon. Insanity. Covered that story. Republican Liz Cheney disowned by her own party in home state. And it looks like I've got one headline up here. U.S.-based firm offers trans employees pay for sex change and new clothes. I got nothing. I got nothing that I could say that I feel comfortable with saying. Not that I care about offending anybody or anything like that, or that I care about people knowing my opinion on the matter. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with I don't want to piss off the father. So, anyway, I'm telling you, it's been an absolutely crazy day. I'm going to warn you that tomorrow is going to continue the trend. Whether or not it be a little crazier, today was pretty crazy. There's a possibility. We'll see. I think this week's going to be a doozy. And if this trial goes the way I think it's going to go, be ready for a ride. Be ready for a ride. Because there's a whole lot of people, from my understanding, that's already planning to hit the streets if he's found guilty. It's nonsense. And whose fault is it? I have to blame it largely on the media. Because, I've seen countless conversations on Facebook about the matter. And, man, I'm telling you, there is a clear defining line as to whether or not somebody has actually watched any of the trial or whether or not they've just been going by the headlines that's being put out there. And it is mind-blowing that the nonsense that the left is passing amongst themselves and encouraged and being led by the media. And it's just crazy because it's like mainstream media is doing absolutely everything they can to stoke division. And it's absolutely crazy. But anyway, that's what I've got for you tonight. I am going to get out of here. I am going to chillax. And God willing, we'll be back tomorrow and we'll see you then. So as always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.